Yeah, sure. So my name's Minky Trevane. I sing and I play guitar for Brainape, as well as a bunch of other stuff. I guess that's as formal as I can make it.
So, professionally speaking, my name is Wei. I'm a composer first, producer second.
I'm James. I play guitar in the band Bear, which is a progressive sort of tech metal band from Antwerp in Belgium.
Hey, people of Bombay, you can do better than that, no?
Well, it just makes things easier if you can just sort of play all the instruments and you save time by doing it. But my main instrument is obviously guitar. And I've been playing guitar for a total of 13, 14 years.
Guitar I've now been playing for about 11 years. I've been a musician for about 12 now. I play a bit drums. I'm trying to learn how to play piano, but that's not going particularly well.
I played the piano up to grade 8, and I played the percussion, drums speaking, up to grade 6.
I don't know, the whole stuff, like everything we do in Brainape really is sort of loud guitars, loud everything really, a lot of shouted vocals. Although on this latest record, there are less shouted vocals than on the first.
No sound. As a child in a scene as alien as he was to me.
I guess punk rock is more about distorted guitars and not being afraid to make things as ugly as you want to.
Vaporwave. See, that is an interesting question, because you can go and Google or go on YouTube and just type in how to make vaporwave or what is vaporwave. You're gonna get a lot of jokes. You're going to get a lot of meme type videos.
What's this? A personal stereo. Were you going to listen to
Vaporwave
in Sunday school?
And I'd say that would describe vaporwave as it was in 2014. I think that's what it described what it was then. But what vaporwave actually is, well, that's something entirely different. That's easy to say. It's plunderphonics. It's just the simple idea of stealing somebody else's work, changing it, not necessarily sampling it and remixing it, more to say changing it for it to sound drony, slow, to give this hint of I don't know how to say it. It's rather ominous. It's almost eerie. It's really creepy.
The music I make is could be best described as I would say more the technical side of the metal genre. I incorporate a lot of sort of I would say progressive sort of complicated rhythms into complex guitar lines to create something that sounds quite interesting to the ear, not only for a guitar player or a musician, but somebody who appreciates heavier music that makes you think, basically. That's my thing.
I don't feel a sense of duty to do it. It's always been a very personal thing, and it never feels like a lot of people feel like they are the messiah to this latest generation. I don't know. I think they're full of shit, really. I don't know. if I weren't doing music, I don't know what else I'd do really. I don't know if anything really has a purpose. What's interesting to me about music is that compared to other activities I could be doing with my time, music seems rather a permanent thing to do. It'll outlive me. It'll outlive any band or project I'm a part of, and it'll be around forever, especially with the internet now. But even so, the physical copies of our album now will be around until everybody's thrown them away, and our album will be somewhere on the internet for as long as the internet's around.
My mother just wanted me to get out and get involved with stuff. A lot of people are going to disagree with me with what I say here, and I've had extensive debates. My music is completely devoid of any meaning. I am not smart enough. I overanalyze other pieces of work. I overanalyze the genre. I look at the elements, I look at the aspects. I hear all these beats, and they are all there. They are what they are, but it has no meaning to it.
But the whole purpose behind the music in general is to basically give people some form of catharsis. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing. We are getting out every bit of anger and frustration that we have via this music, and by doing so, we hope that people can actually do the same, get the same kind of relief out of it as well.
That's interesting. I've not been asked that before. A little bit about me. I don't know. So much of what I do is geared towards all the projects I'm involved with. I guess I like long walks along the beach. Box of chocolates always go down a treat. Yeah, I guess this is so un-rock and roll, but I guess I'm a chocoholic, less of an alcoholic, and I own 2 cats, so I guess that sums me up in a nutshell.
My name's Jordan. My actual name, I shouldn't say this on camera too much, but it actually is Wei. I won't say my other name, for God no. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, my English name is Jordan, and my Chinese name is Wei. I'm Asian, Brit speaking. And me, I'm completely different to Wei, completely. I'm not as smart in anything else. You can talk about anything, movies, games, books, and I'm going to be a dumbass. That's me.
My job, so I work in, well, as you know, I work at a cosmetics store, which is funny. It's a complete juxtaposition to sort of everything else I do. But I like to think of my day job, so the job that actually pays me, as my side thing, and that my music is my main thing. Obviously that's completely unrealistic, but it's what I think of it as. So when you ask me who am I, sort of apart from the music, I don't know, like I would say very, very ordinary.
I am British by nationality, British by birth, and that's the only nationality I hold. But yeah, no, I spent my formative years in Belgium. But as far as culture-wise, it's quite interesting because for the most part, I'd say, culturally, I am also really quite British. Even when we were in Belgium, we were watching British television, we were listening to British music. I went to a British school, we spoke English at home. Because I did go to a French school for a while, I do speak French. Having lived in Belgium, you know, you're exposed to a lot of French influences, Belgian influences. But I think that's played a weaker part in my life than a lot of people assume. And it's interesting because it really is down to the individual. Because my sister, for example, doesn't really particularly feel British. She doesn't really feel like she's from anywhere. I mean, if you look at any of the albums I've put out, there's so much imagery of alienation and not fitting in, and not quite sure where you're supposed to be, who you're supposed to be, where you're supposed to be going. So I do think there's a lot of sense of alienation, but I don't know whether, I suppose that's got to do with nationality, and I think that's just what everybody goes through when they're growing up anyway. You're not quite sure who you are, going through puberty, and then you sort of come out of puberty and you're still not sure who you are and what you're supposed to be. At least that was my experience. I don't know if I hit puberty. I might have just bypassed it.
Well, I travelled
You
all, I travelled all over. I was born in England, straight up. I'm a born Brit, and my mother is British by nationality. So half of me is Caucasian, naturally speaking. The other half is just completely Eastern, completely gone to China. There is I had a period of time after a family incident where I had to go and live with some other relatives for a long time. So that I had to go outside the country. And, you know, at that time I was still learning English and learning basic comprehension, grammar, understanding of people. And I had some weird quirks at the time, so as many kids pick up a lot of the weird things. Like I wouldn't wave my hands to say hello, I would do that. I don't exactly know what that means to this day. I think that's how I interpreted it. There were some words I never truly understood. Like I remember never understanding connectives at all. Like actually, however, although I was like, what's going on here? That's when my English would kind of freak out. And because of that, I would never speak. Simply put, I would just never talk to anybody. And that being said, and then after I came back and I lived with my mother happily ever after, I had to go and take lessons outside of school and being assembly time to basically pick up on my grammar, my basic comprehension, but my speaking's not exactly great either. It's hard to, because unlike other people where they can just do it, I've always had this thing where you know, you should think before you speak. No, I have to think before I speak. So sometimes I pause, I hesitate, and it's not because I'm shy or anxious, it's because I've got to think, which word suits the situation, or and sometimes not all the words that I say are appropriate, which sometimes either hurts people's feelings or creates misunderstanding, and it's all a bit of a laugh, really.
I mean, growing up in another country is at times a bit sort of challenging. I think we had it quite easy because we went to an English-speaking school and then we had English-speaking friends. But I think when that part ended, I mean, I obviously decided to stay here and pursue studies and all that stuff in French, and had to very quickly adapt to things. For the first couple of years it was quite uncomfortable, sort of playing music with people that didn't quite understand me. I played in a band for a couple of months called the Balancers, and I remember it just didn't go well with them because they didn't understand me and I didn't understand them. And then the same thing happened with Set Things Right for a while. It took a very long time for us to like properly get on a level where we could understand each other as people and stuff like that. And then I moved to Antwerp and sort of built my life around that band, and sort of integrated myself into sort of the Antwerp or Flemish sort of culture or whatever. First it was very challenging, one thing, having all these ideas in your head musically but not being able to communicate them properly because the people in your band don't speak the same language as you. And I think that's the most challenging thing, being somebody that's English speaking, can speak French and Dutch, but can't properly communicate very complex ideas into that language yet.
Now that's funny because I did live in a British household for the majority of my life, and my mother tried to raise me in the British way possible. However, even my mother's cultural identity is not entirely British. She's from the Oceania region, Australia, New Zealand, and so even her, you know, you kind of feel weird because she would always talk about home. and this home is not my home because home is something I can't identify as a country. I have to identify as the house where I lived, which is in England, but is that my home? I've never felt that. I feel there's a lot of, I meet other people. As I was growing up, I always met a lot of other people, and there was always these common traits between them. I thought, well, this is the British culture, isn't it? Now, of course, when I was thinking, I didn't think, well, that's the British culture. I just thought, well, that's normal. And then I try and emulate that, I try and copy it, and I would feel completely, I don't know, boosted. I wouldn't feel like I belonged at all. And yeah, I suffered from racial bullying. Suffered. I didn't really care. But I did receive racial bullying. That didn't make me feel alienated. What made me feel alienated more was the acknowledgement of others of it. It was the people who tried to not be offensive. They were the true people who made me feel alienated, and I never could express that properly. It was when they would ask you questions such as, because I look racially ambiguous, you couldn't say what I was, and people say, are you from Sri Lanka, or how do you do it in the Middle East, or they would say these comments which they weren't necessarily insensitive, because I can understand, but it was definitely something which made, well, I'm not British then, am I? Because how can I say to them, oh, hang on, I live down the road, I always have. Yeah, I'd say I feel it, and I felt alienated all the way up until this point, where I've become surrounded by people of likewise nature, of other people with international backgrounds, and especially other people such as yourself, who have British heritage, but they come from an international background.
I think that if you live in your home country and you make music with people that are on like 100% the same level as you, linguistically, it really helps things, basically. It's not impossible to do it in a foreign country, but it makes it more challenging.
But as it stands, it seems to me that I just belong as myself, and I think that's the biggest message I would put across to anybody, is don't try to connect to any identity, any group identity, because if you truly don't feel like you belong, then the identity is yourself. That's what I've learned. I've learned to identify as myself. So I can bring both cultures to the table at hand if anybody asks me. But if somebody says, do I do something in a particular way? There I have some elements of my Asian side, and I have some elements of my British side. A great example of this would be I eat with chopsticks. I just prefer Asian food. Stuff like that. But with my British side, I have table manners. Don't put your elbows on the bloody table.
It's not something you can really quantify. It's as lame as it sounds. It's more about feeling, man. I feel pretty British, so I guess I am. I don't know.
I'd say my goal is to basically eventually make this a living and do music sort of professionally, essentially. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do. It's the only thing I will probably only ever want to do, really, realistically. So that's ultimately a goal of mine, to basically just do this as long as I possibly can, and hopefully eventually be able to sort of live to some degree off of doing what I love to do. So.
Because your life is the existence of yourself and those around you. And if the existence is those that I can see every day, and it's the same people, well, that's a lot better to me. And I guess what I'm saying, in a really, really long way, is the goal of achieving a family. And a family can mean anything, but in the end of the day, it's a simple goal, and it's one that 7 billion people have achieved, but it's no save the world goal. It's just enjoy your time. You've got your time.
I don't know. That again is quite interesting. Had you asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said no. But the last 5 years, the drive to create more and more and more and more and more has ramped up a lot. So I guess just be as effective in making, not even necessarily music, but keeping myself busy for as long as possible while I still can. That's the end goal, I suppose. You've only got a certain amount of time on the planet, so you may as well make the most of it.